FEMA, which is going to cover more than the usual 75%. In the ALG plan, the elementary debt is no longer an estimate. That's the actual number in there. Okay, this stuff has all changed. I'll get onto the part about the school's budget in a little bit. The final school budget vote is on March 18th. The school budget Saturday is on March 4th, which is the same day we will have our next ALG meeting, which will be where we talk about what we discussed today. And then the following week, we will have our normal FinCom meeting, and that will be followed by sorry, trying to get the math totally up. That'll be followed by another ALG meeting before the school committee's budget final vote. So we need to get what we want to know here, get ready for the 4th, and then have a chance after our next meeting to speak again before they do the final vote. The town is also presenting their first budget to the Board of Selectmen on March 1st, looking at, hold on one second, let me pull up the email. We're looking at April for the town's version of Budget Saturday. I'll get you that date in a second. The town and schools have agreed to updating the fiscal year 23 and 24 projections going forward, which is something we've been asking for a long time. So that will be very nice and helpful in terms of our being able to actually do the long-term planning we've been looking at. Budget Saturday for the town is tentatively listed as April 13th, but the John Mangiarotti says they could also look at the first week of April on the 6th. And anything else? Fire stations working on the geothermal wells. The school building is still looking good on expenses in spite of the extra expenses relative to siting. If there's anything else, I expect Jason to fill us in later on. And liaison reports. So the big thing that came out of the ALG meeting is our next budget item, agenda item. Christine, is there anything you'd like to add?
I would real quick. So in regards to our point of view, and God knows I'd love to never talk about this particular point of view again, considering how long we've been at it. In the last ALG meeting, the town manager made a good point that our tax burden slide, the one where we have a new way of reporting from median family income, from median household income, and we are now putting it on 2 different lines to show where the change is, takes a lot of explanation in order for somebody seeing the presentation and even reading our notes to not look at it and be shocked and concerned about, the tax burden as percentage of income. And I told Mr. Mangiarotti that I would come back to the committee. And I'm wondering how everybody feels about this year pulling it out of the published point of view while still having every member have a copy of this page so that we can speak to the issue without having it part of the point of view.
You're saying remove that slide from the presentation?
I am. I think he's got a really good point. Marie also made that point. Because we go from 157,000 down to 125,000 because we go from family to household. We also don't know how much of that is pandemic because we're not going to know until later. And so it looks like this enormous drop off, and it needs to take into account the fact that we've changed the metric. And it's just a lot of explanation. With most people who get the presentation aren't going to read the notes. They're just going to get, the slide and look at it and have a reaction. So they've asked if we would be willing to pull that out for this year. And so I'm putting that to the committee.
Roland.
Do you have a copy of the slide you can show us right now so we can all know what we're looking at?
Yeah, do you mind if I share, Christy?
Go ahead.
So this is the one. Here.
And to clarify, Christine, we cannot get fiscal year 21's median family income?
It's not reported any longer. I used to be able to go to like a like the labor and statistics for Massachusetts on the .gov account. And I used to be able to go through past years and get that median family income. And now they're only showing from FY21 on the median household income, and I can't get the history. So I can't switch the whole slide over.
So there's no median household income for 18, 19, 20 that you can pull?
If somebody can find that information, that would be great. I wasn't having any luck doing it. And I wasn't having any luck finding the median family income for FY21.
So what's the difference between family income and household income?
A family is, nuclear, and the household might, honestly, I probably should know what the difference is.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And I feel like I did at one point.
So a household can be an individual person. A household can be a single person at an apartment. That can be considered as a household. So we are comparing apples and oranges. But
Yeah, I think we just demonstrated why we should not include those two numbers.
Christine, what was the 141,000 number that the town sent us from their housing production plan?
So that number is a projection of the median household income based on 2015 census data.
Okay.
Those do tend to get adjusted after the fact. But it's not.
I mean, why can't we just say it's not reported?
If I'm looking at this as a just one of the many people we tend to present the point of view to, and we're not necessarily going to be able to get in front of those groups this year, right? We're going to have to just sort of send them the presentation. And
Okay.
yes, we can include our notes, but there's going to be a lot more people looking at this without us standing in front of them and describing each side the way we have in the past.
No, I'm suggesting we just put a text box at the bottom that says median family income for FY21 not reported, and similarly median household income for the previous years not reported. Or just put it in each of the columns. I don't know why this is going to be such a big deal.
There's this like Statista. It has it in a graph from 1990 all the way through 2019.
We need 2021. We need 2021.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing 2019 as 87,707 for the median household income.
For Acton?
Yeah. Well,
So-
it's not. It's showing for this. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I think that it's sorry.
No, go ahead.
I believe that it's always better to give people more information than less. We're clearly calling out that we admit we're mixing apples and oranges here, and that it'll fall off over time. I don't think ditching the slide is the right answer. I think giving more information is always better.
Any other ideas? Okay, my inclination is to
Christy,
leave.
Steve, and Dave have their hands up.
Oh, they can't see that. Thank you.
I know. I just noticed. I thought you'd want to know.
Yeah, just briefly, I would say Jason's thought on this is maybe we should just take another look at these numbers offline and figure out a way to try to smooth it out a little bit, but it is more information. I think it's really good information, and I like the way it's presented now. I think removing it would be a little bit of a disservice to the overall presentation, is my view.
Jump in, whoever else.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Steve Barrett. In the past years, in the comprehensive financial report, on page 110 or whatever, there used to be some statistics on, I forget whether it was household or per capita or some income. And I'm wondering whether we could get a stream that would help give us a consistent set of numbers from that.
Hey, good evening, everybody. That's a good point. We're just finalizing that, and we'll be putting that out momentarily. So, yeah, that's something that should be in there. And the FA pulls from different sources, so we'll get the CAF out as soon as we can, and it should be soon. So that's a good point, Steve. We'll follow up on that.
All right, let's get that number then, if it sounds good to everyone. I agree with Jason and David that we need this information in some form. I recognize that it is misleading.
Okay. Then I think moving forward, we'll go with let's get some better clean data, and then I will change the slide and send it out to the committee, and we can confirm it at our next meeting. Good. Awesome.
All right. Moving on to our next agenda item, a discussion about the budgets. As you saw, hopefully, the schools have come back with a budget that is below 3% increase in assessment for Acton, which decreases our, let me just pull up the spreadsheet here. No, I don't have it there. The shortfall in the budget, the gap that needs to be narrowed. The problem here is that there is still about 725,000-ish that needs to be figured out. And that's on top of using $1.1 million in reserves, which our policy completely, that's against our policy as currently described. So we need to figure out what we want to do about that and what message we want to take back to everyone. We've had a request from the school committee that we consider loosening up the policy for this year, at least specifically, given what a hard year it is. Ideas? Opinions? Steve?
Well, I guess I'd like to see the town budget. Can't think of a good reason why they haven't even seen a preliminary at this point, but I guess it's coming soon. But we could shave a little bit off the 700,000 if that doesn't come in as high as what's in the ALG spreadsheet. But until I see that, then I'm not really willing to revisit much of anything until I know what we're dealing with. I'm sympathetic to the fact that it's a tough year. But if I look at the next 2 years on the spreadsheet, pulling off the reserve policy this year isn't going to do us a thing. The situation looks far more dire in the next 2 years. So, a temporary hiatus in enforcing the reserve policy, it'd make us feel better between now and July, I guess. But it's not going to do a thing for us in the long term. So we really either have to start talking seriously about lowering costs or raising revenue.
I'm sorry to say one more thing. I'm sorry, I didn't include this in the ALG update. It was voiced by every party there that there is no stomach for an override. So we're working with that being stated. Christine?
ever?
No, this year.
I'm not sure I got the impression that everybody was against it overall. I'm just
Okay.
gonna that caveat.
Mr. Barrett, my understanding is that Mr. Mangiarotti will be presenting the budget to the Board of Selectmen on March 1st. At what point would we be able to have those numbers to update the spreadsheet even unofficially?
Oh boy, that's an easy one, Madam Chair. John's putting his budget out about 144 hours from now, Monday night, March 1st, and we will have those numbers in the spreadsheet that goes out, say Tuesday or Wednesday of that week.
Okay.
With this meeting.
I'm gonna ask if people would like, I would like to have discussion here, but our next ALG meeting is a week from Thursday, March 4th. That is right before that school committee's budget Saturday is March 4th, that Thursday. I'm wondering if we would like to meet on March 2nd with the town's initial budget in the spreadsheet so we can know how we want to do how we want to go back to the next ALG meeting, what our basis is for our feelings about reserve use, as opposed to going in a little blind. We have our policy.
I'm available.
We can do it. It's not a ton of time to digest the data, but yeah, we can do it.
I would think it's better than not digesting any data.
Fair enough.
Thoughts, feelings? Roland?
Why not? I'm not going anywhere.
Dave, would you be available, and what do you think about that?
March 2nd, right?
Yes, next Tuesday.
I should be good with that.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, just looking at my calendar, I have a meeting at 5:30, but I should be available by 7.
Wonderful. Adam?
I am available.
Isha? You're muted.
I think I might be available.
Okay. So what do we think about that?
Let's do it.
Okay, wonderful. We'll plan a meeting next Tuesday.
And it'll just be a budget discussion, right? We'll
Yes.
not do all the other stuff.
I don't think we have to.
Okay.
Let me just write that down. Is there anything else anyone would like to say ahead of that discussion?
Yeah, you are asking for comments on whether or not to have an exception to our newly minted reserve policy. Well, I think it's great that there's consensus not to have an override this year. I think that it is important to see that our reserves are not limitless. So if we're already having issues now, having an exception just accelerates the time when we're going to need to have an operating override. So I'm not, in the absence of seeing the town data and in the absence of knowing exactly what additional costs, and this may be in the school side, I don't know yet, what additional costs COVID are bringing to this. I'm not prepared at this time to already start carving out an exception to a policy that we just created in the last 2 months.
Any other input? Okay, unless we have anything else to say, we have a bunch of minutes to review. I have passed along some of the updates I've gotten from people. Has anyone have any other changes they would like to see made to, let's start with the first one, 1 second. The November 24th minutes. Any amendments? Okay. Let's someone make a motion.
Just did.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. Do we have a second? Wonderful. All right. We have motion to approve the minutes of November 24th with the amendments I have already passed along to Mr. Barrett. And we will do a vote. Steve,
Aye.
Roland,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
and I say aye. It passes unanimously. And then the minutes for January 12th. Again, I've passed along some corrections to Mr. Barrett. Are there any other changes anyone would like to have made?
You say January 12th minutes as amended?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. We will now take a vote on that. Steve,
Aye.
Roland,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
and I say aye. Wonderful. That passes. That brings us to the January 26th minutes. Again, I have sent corrections I have gathered over to Mr. Barrett. Are there any, if you didn't mail me, are there any changes you would like to see made? All right, I see no signs of that. Do we have a motion?
Approve the January 26th meeting minutes as amended.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Steve,
Aye.
Roland,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
and I say aye. I believe that's all the minutes, but it's been a long day. Mr. Barrett, is that all of the minutes that you sent out to be reviewed?
Believe it is, Madam Chair.
Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to committee reports. Who would like to speak? Okay, I'll go. The Kelly's Corner committee met. They very nicely, two of the members went through the design and looked at which street pedestrian lights, like street lamps, for when you're making the sidewalk lit up, not the road, could be removed in order to decrease the cost. They came up with about $250,000 worth of savings. And then I learned that, very unfortunately, from our, she's no longer the senior planner, she's the head of the planning department now, that Mr. Mangiarotti has said, put the full plan in. And that will be a part of the budget. Which says to me that there is arguably $250,000 worth of streetlights that don't need to be in the budget right now, which puts a little bit in question my general sense that we can just count on them doing the right, responsible thing. That said, I think it is completely reasonable to have some of the lights in there. There are other ones that, looking at the design, I don't see why they're in there to start with. So we'll have to see what comes out with that, but I'd like everyone to keep that sort of caveat in their mind. It's making me feel a little bit like Jason with the bathroom, but there's not enough attention being paid to how the money is being spent. There's the sentiment that if this doesn't happen now, it won't happen. That said, I don't think sidewalk lights past the second driveway into Roche are really necessary. No one is ever going to walk down there. There is no reason to walk past the CVS as part of our walkable town center. So I know at a minimum there are a few things like that.
Not yet, at least, not yet. There may be in the future.
And when there is in the future, other changes will need to be made. So, yes, well, good point, Mike. So yes, that is my annoyance and frustration, and I have made it clear that I do not think that we as a committee will support the full range of streetlights or pedestrian lights in there. We'll have to see what happens when it comes before us. That's it for me. Christine.
The school committee met, and other than the budget, which you all have access to, they're going to take advantage of some pool testing, as Christy as Christy mentioned, and it'll be paid for by the state for the first 6 weeks, and then they estimate it's going to cost about $300,000 for the rest of the year to continue the pool testing. And anybody who was paying attention today may have noticed that they're getting further guidance to push for full-time everybody back in school as quickly as possible. It's interesting, it's divisive, it's going to be challenging. I'm not sure how they accomplish it without it costing money, because the teachers are split resourced right now. Many teachers from the junior high up are teaching both remote and in person, so that'll prove very challenging. So there's going to be turmoil in the school system, but their goal is to try to get the kids at least 4 days a week on site within the next couple of months if possible. They may be forced to do it faster. So,
And that's all grades, not just the initial discussion of first through third.
the hope for the hope coming out of DESI is it's all grades. There's definitely a feel that the priority should be the younger kids and the kids with IEPs, but there's plenty of stress from parents of older kids talking about the losses at the high school as well, educationally, social, emotionally. So they're scrambling to make a plan for every scenario, and try to find a way to achieve the goal of getting everybody back in school and still maintaining safe distances. Because if you read the CDC guidelines, everybody can go back to school if you can stay masked and remain safe distances. But we can't bring everybody back and still stay. We only get down to 3 feet of distance in classrooms, and then at lunches, it's a bigger problem. We don't have a way at this point, as far as I know, that one of the biggest challenges was trying to feed everybody safely, masks off, because the areas of community spread have been things like break rooms. At hospitals and health centers, they shut down break rooms because that's where they found COVID spreading. Take your mask off and eat, that becomes a problem. So there are a lot of challenges going forward.
Jason.
I have a question, and I'm not necessarily expecting you to have the answer now, but this is just something I'm curious about. The added $600,000 for pool testing, would that be eligible for reimbursement through CARES or through any other projects?
It should be, yes, and the state it's $300,000, and the state is promising what's called ESSER funds. They had a first round of ESSER funds last year, ESSER 2 funds, and so some of that will be eligible. Also, more funding promised coming out of federal government, though they're not sure how much yet. So it's possible that will all be covered by some sort of reimbursable funds.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Mm-hmm.
Steve.
So Christine, can you give me the Cliff Note version of how the assessment went down from what was a level service budget?
See, now if I was super prepared, I would have had the numbers up in front of me before you asked your question. Instead, I'm going to open them while somebody else goes, and you're going to circle back to me, and I'm going to get you that information.
Okay.
I unfortunately, I'm not going to give her a ton of time because my update is that unfortunately I did not make it to the last school building committee meeting, but that we have another one tomorrow night, and hopefully I can make it to that one and give you a better update then. So other than that, we can do some jazz hands or whatever to give Christine another couple of seconds to get it done, but I do not have any other update at this time.
Christy, I have some information from the planning board, which is that there's an upcoming safety meeting for the entire High Street corridor. I don't know if that was disseminated to the entire FinCom or if it just came through the planning board notes, but that's going to be on Thursday, March 4th, 7 o'clock, and the Zoom link is available on the Acton website. And that's open to the public, and it's sort of a information gathering session about safety issues on High Street, traffic, and so forth.
And that is the same time as the school budget Saturday that if anyone can attend will be very, very highly encouraged and helpful. Roland.
I don't know if anybody's been by the new fire station or the construction of it. I was by about a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, and it is moving along quite rapidly. So that's a good thing. And there was also a forum that I got coming up on March, I believe the 18th, on transfer station and recycling and how they can make that maybe more efficient. I mean, you'd get better with that, but I don't have, it's the only updates I have because whenever we have our meeting, it's always on CPC's meeting, so.
There was also an email about an upcoming meeting regarding it was in Selectman Benson's notes about the potential of having drive-through. And it was entirely unclear to me whether that meant what the results of the survey had been. It sounded like he was telling the planning board or someone to come up with proposals for both for and against or some such. I didn't understand. I was wondering if anyone here had paid attention to that to know. Mike.
Yeah, I think it's telling the planning board to come up with the right language so that go to town meeting that would, the bylaw would allow drive-through for pharmacy as well as restaurants.
Thank you.
Or whatever the survey results indicate, but his instructions were to the planning board to come up to with the language for the proposed warrant article.
I presume that the Economic Development Committee is in support of that.
Well, we haven't heard the language yet, but generally,
I mean, the concept.
Generally, they would say yes, to a limited extent.
Thank you. Christine, are you ready? Wonderful.
Yes. Do you mind if I share for a second? Alrighty. Okay. So these are the reductions that the school committee found. Building and department requests, curriculum and facilities requests, case collaborative credit. ESSER grants are going to be used to offset some ed tech requests. So for instance, because we're able to use the COVID funding for things like laptops, we're actually going to be able to, we're going to have more new laptops in the system than we typically have. And previously we haven't had a laptop for each child. We do right now. We won't need to going forward, which means we can reduce our technology requests in the future when we're back to regular education. And so the bottom line is they got us to 3.17, and then they made a few more adjustments with the health insurance trust, staff not returning in FY22, and they got us down to the magic number of 2.97%, with Foxborough's total assessment change of 4.78%.
And as John Peterson would point out, that 4.78% is on a much smaller number. So lest you feel any sympathy for their assessment having gone up.
I wasn't worried that that was going to be something anybody on the committee felt. But thanks, Christy. Does that answer your question, Steve?
Yes, thank you very much. And I would say in terms of the health insurance trust rate increase, that additional 2% was strictly a COVID-driven item. And we have, not we have, but I think both the schools and the town have tested the idea whether anything involving the health insurance trust and COVID was reimbursable under the CARES Act, and we've come up empty. So that money, and if I go back way back, months, I always said that whatever reserve number we came up with, it should be adjusted for unreimbursed COVID expenses. So I would add that, whatever it is, 170,000, into whatever else we decide is an appropriate amount of reserve use.
Thank you. Anyone else? Like, Roland?
On that slide you just had up, Christine, it looks like our assessment for the town is going to be up over 3%. 3.21.
That's version 1 of the, you have to go down to version 2, Christine.
I'm on version 2.
It says version 1 summary at the top. Go down further.
You're right. My apologies. It got even better. It just kept getting better, and I didn't make it all the way down to the bottom. Here, well, I won't even show you the other savings. We'll just leave it here. 2.9% total assessment percent change, 2.97. Foxborough's 4.64. I have to say I feel that the schools really attempted to dig deep for ways to handle the budget without increasing our assessment. They brought up our levy limit and our limitations multiple times in every meeting. And, you know, I felt that we were heard, and I appreciated that.
I think the last 2 years have been able to do a good job, I think, you know, getting a better handle on it and trying to help out the taxpayer in that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Christine, you're never going to get rid of this liaison assignment.
Oh, speaking of.
Funny you say that. I mentioned to Christy earlier today that at the end of this term, I was going to pass off the school committee meetings because I will no longer have an AB kid. Both of my younger two will be at Minuteman. And I actually think that for the sake of this committee, we should have somebody monitoring the Minuteman school committee. And I thought I might transfer myself to that responsibility, and somebody else could pick up the Acton Boxborough side.
So I'm certainly sympathetic, but hell, I used to do school committee, and I haven't had one in the system since 2006. So it's not an excuse.
I hear you, but I'm pretty sure if you all really want me as chair next year, I might be able to sneak out of it. We'll see.
You're going to play that card, huh? That one has some validity to it.
Excellent.
If that's everything, why don't we call it a night and pick up again next Tuesday? Nisha, do you have a motion for us?
Yes, I do. I motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Wonderful. All right, Christine,
Aye.
Roland,
Aye.
Steve, Jason,
Aye.
Mike.
But we didn't get an update from the selectmen.
Sahana's not here this evening.
None is.
Nisha,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Adam,
Aye.
and I say aye. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Good night.
Good night.